In the long and storied history of imperial China, the dragon throne was a sacred inheritance passed from father to son, an unbroken chain of male authority. But in the 7th century, one woman would not just challenge this tradition, she would shatter it. She began her life as a teenage concubine, a beautiful but seemingly powerless girl in the palace. She would end it as the only woman to ever rule China in her own name as emperor. History remembers her with two faces, one of a political genius who ushered in a golden age, and the other of a ruthless monster who would murder her own children to clear her path to power. Was she a visionary reformer, forced to use the savage tools of a patriarchal world to survive, or was she a bloodthirsty tyrant? This is the story of Wu Zetian, from her first steps in the palace to her solitary seat on the most powerful throne on earth. Our story begins in 624 CE during the glittering but treacherous Tang dynasty. Wu Zetian was born Wu Zhao, the daughter of a successful official who had been a supporter of the Tang's founding emperor. This connection afforded her a privilege almost unheard of for women of her time, a first-class education. While other girls learned domestic arts, Wu was encouraged by her father to read, write, and study history, politics, and literature. This education gave her a keen intellect and a sharp awareness of how power really worked. Her life took a dramatic turn at the age of 14 when she was selected to become a concubine for the great Emperor Taizong. She was given the rank of Chiron, a relatively low 5th-rank consort, a position far from the emperor's main affections. Her early days at court were unremarkable. Popular stories say she was initially assigned to the royal laundry, but it was her intelligence that set her apart. One popular anecdote, though not confirmed in official histories, claims she dared to speak to the emperor directly one day, discussing Chinese history with a wit that stunned him. Impressed, Taizong supposedly made her his secretary. This new role would have been key, giving her a front-row seat to the highest affairs of state, where she could observe every political maneuver, secret alliance, and whisper of conspiracy. But her ambition may have led her down a dangerous and forbidden path. While serving the aging Emperor Taizong, she is said to have caught the eye of his son and heir, the Crown Prince Li Ji. A secret taboo connection began to form between the young prince and his father's concubine, a perilous gamble that could have ended in death for them both. When Emperor Taizong finally died in 649, Wu Zetian's fate seemed sealed. As was custom for an emperor's childless concubines, she was sent to a Buddhist convent to live out her days. In the eyes of the world, her story was over. But for Wu Zetian, this was just an intermission. The monastery walls couldn't hold Wu Zetian's ambition. The new emperor, Gaozong, didn't forget the brilliant and beautiful woman he had known in his father's court. Defying tradition and risking scandal, he recalled Wu Zetian from the convent and brought her back to the palace, making her his own concubine. She was now back in the game, and she would play it with unmatched ferocity. The court was a viper's nest of rivalries. Emperor Gaozong's primary wife, Empress Wang, was childless. His favorite concubine, known as the pure concubine, had given him children and held his affection. Wu Zetian was an outsider, but she was a master of manipulation. Initially, Empress Wang saw Wu as an ally to undermine the pure concubine. This was a fatal miscalculation. Wu Zetian quickly won the emperor's absolute favor, and soon she was the one who posed the greatest threat. Then came the incident that would forever define her legacy. In 654, Wu Zetian gave birth to a baby girl. According to the official histories written by men hostile to her, a horrifying event unfolded. Empress Wang, the childless wife, visited the infant. Shortly after she left, the baby was found dead, apparently smothered in her crib. Wu Zetian accused the empress of murdering her child out of jealousy. Devastated and enraged, Emperor Gaozong believed her. Empress Wang was deposed and imprisoned. Was this the cold-blooded act of a mother sacrificing her own child for power, or was she the victim of a court conspiracy with the story later twisted by her enemies? Historians debate this fiercely. While some have claimed the infanticide story was a later fabrication, the accusation actually appears in official Tang histories written within a century of her life, though their bias is clear. Regardless of the truth, the result was the same. With her rivals eliminated, Wu Zetian was made Empress Consort in 655 CE, the highest position a woman could hold. But for Wu, becoming Empress wasn't the endgame, it was just the beginning. As Empress, Wu Zetian's influence wasn't just immense, it became absolute. She was no longer just a consort. She became the emperor's most trusted political partner. In 660 CE, Emperor Gaozong suffered a debilitating stroke that left him with failing eyesight and poor health. He came to rely on his wife completely. Wu Zetian began to screen official documents, consult on all major decisions, and effectively govern the empire. So total was her control that she and Gaozong were sometimes referred to as the two sages, ruling side by side. When court protocol barred a woman from holding audiences, she simply ruled from behind a bamboo curtain, her voice directing the nation while her husband sat as a figurehead. This period marked the true consolidation of her power, and it was a time of both reform and terror. To secure her position against the old aristocratic clans who saw her as a usurper, she began to build a new power base. She expanded the imperial examination system, opening up civil service positions to talented men from various social classes, bypassing the established nobility. These newly appointed officials owed their careers and their loyalty to her alone. This move significantly shifted China's bureaucracy towards a system based more on merit, which would strengthen the state for centuries, but she also ruled through fear. To crush opposition, she established a network of secret police and informers. Accusations of treason, real or imagined, led to purges, exiles, and executions. Those who dared to challenge her authority had a habit of disappearing. Her eldest son, the popular Crown Prince Li Hong, died suddenly. While traditional accounts blame Wu, modern historians note his poor health and treat the charges unproven. Her second son, Li Xian, was accused of treason, exiled, and later forced to commit suicide. Historical accounts, colored by the Confucian scholars who despised her, paint a picture of a ruler steeped in paranoia and blood. While these accounts were written by her political enemies and are likely exaggerated, there's no doubt that her methods were brutal and effective. She was eliminating every potential threat, securing her path to the ultimate prize. When Emperor Gaozong finally died in 683, tradition dictated that as Empress Dowager, she should retire gracefully and let her son rule. Wu Zetian had no such intention. After Gaozong's death, Wu Zetian placed her third son on the throne as Emperor Zhongzong. His reign lasted just 6 weeks. When he showed a glimmer of independence, Wu deposed him without hesitation and sent him into exile. She then installed her fourth and youngest son Li Dan as Emperor Ruizong, a puppet who understood his role perfectly. For years she ruled as regent, the undisputed power behind the throne, but it wasn't enough. She was tired of ruling from behind a curtain. She wanted the title that no woman in Chinese history had ever dared to claim, Huangdi, or Emperor. To get there, she orchestrated a brilliant propaganda campaign. She commissioned scholars to write biographies of exemplary women and circulated prophecies that foretold the coming of a female ruler. She elevated Buddhism, a faith more accommodating to female leadership than the rigid patriarchy of Confucianism. Buddhist monks even claimed to have found a text, the Great Cloud Sutra, which prophesied that a female sovereign would be reincarnated to rule the world. She even created a new Chinese character for her own name, Zhao, an ideogram, combining the sun and moon to place her above all else in the sky. Finally, in the year 690, at the age of 67, she made her move. She forced her son Ruizong to abdicate. She then stepped forward, broke with tradition, and proclaimed herself emperor of a new dynasty, the Zhou. Wu Zetian had done the unthinkable. She was now the first and only woman to ever sit on the dragon throne, ruling not as a regent or a consort, but as the sovereign of China. Her 15-year reign was a study in contrasts. The same ruler who used secret police to eliminate her enemies also proved to be one of China's most capable monarchs. She continued her policy of recruiting officials based on merit, creating a skilled and efficient bureaucracy. She implemented agrarian reforms, lowered taxes on peasants, and commissioned new irrigation works, leading to a more stable economy. Her armies expanded and defended China's borders, keeping the vital Silk Road trade routes secure. Art and culture flourished, particularly Buddhism, with the state sponsoring magnificent temples and grottos. She was a ruthless autocrat, but under her firm grip, the empire prospered. She had proven that a woman could not only rule, but could rule with a skill that few men before her could match. As Wu Zetian entered her 80s, her legendary iron grip finally began to weaken. Her health faltered, and her sharp mind started to dull. The court, which had trembled before her for decades, began to sense a shift in power. Her final years were marked by increasing paranoia and a reliance on a pair of young, handsome favorites, the Zhang brothers, who many believed were exploiting her trust and isolating her from her ministers. Factions began to form, loyal to the exiled Li family, waiting for the moment to restore the Tang dynasty. That moment came in February of 705. A group of court officials and generals staged a palace coup. They forced their way into her chambers, executed the Zhang brothers, and compelled the ailing 81-year-old to abdicate in favor of her exiled son, Zhongzong. Her new Zhou dynasty was abolished, and the Tang dynasty was restored. The woman who had held de facto power over China for nearly half a century was now a prisoner in a remote palace. She was granted the title Empress Zetian, meaning in accordance with the will of heaven, a final, ironic nod to the cosmic legitimacy she had fought so hard to create. Wu Zetian died peacefully later that year. Her final wish was perhaps her most enigmatic act. She was to be buried alongside her husband, Emperor Gaozong, not as an emperor in her own right, but as his empress consort. More mysteriously, her tombstone, the massive stele that would announce her life's achievements to eternity, was left completely blank. For a woman who had meticulously crafted her own image, this silent monument was a profound statement. Why it was left blank is still debated. Perhaps she felt her deeds were beyond words, or maybe she was leaving it to the future to pass judgment. And judge her they did. For centuries, Confucian historians, scandalized by a woman in power, condemned her as a demonic usurper, a murderer, and a tyrant who violated the natural order. They exaggerated her cruelty and downplayed her achievements, turning her into a cautionary tale. Yet the facts of her reign tell a different story. Wu Zetian stabilized the Tang dynasty when it was at risk. Her government reforms created a more effective administration that strengthened China for centuries to come. Under her rule, the economy prospered, the borders were secured, and culture flourished. She was undoubtedly ruthless, employing methods common among the male emperors of her era, yet she was judged far more harshly for it simply because she was a woman. So who was the real Wu Zetian? Was she the monster of the ancient chronicles, or the visionary leader whose accomplishments speak for themselves? The answer, like her blank tombstone, remains open to interpretation. She was a product of a brutal system, and she used its own tools to conquer it. She remains one of the most complex, controversial, and utterly fascinating rulers in all of history. What do you think? Was Wu Zetian a feminist icon who broke the ultimate glass ceiling, or a ruthless tyrant no better than the men she replaced? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to explore more stories of the most compelling figures in history, be sure to like and subscribe.